Hi friends, host Eric here, Circle with Fast People, and I would like to talk about TI, logic, intelligence, ENFPs, INFPs, ESFPs, ISFPs, and the wonders of cultural value bias. So, a couple comments. One by Jared that I've been a week late in responding to. Interesting observation on Eastern thought being NISC. I was thinking earlier the Eastern focus is more like TI as it focuses on the journey, and Western focus more like TE as it focuses on results. I'm not sure. If it is true, then maybe INFJ represents Eastern mode being the most. Being an ENFP, TI is in my blind spot in my cognitive stack. I've tried so hard to read and listen to other people explain what it is, and I still don't think I have a good understanding of it. It's because I can't feel what it is. Honestly, I usually intuitively feel what something is and can picture myself as the object or how it is like another pattern, and I can map that pattern on some subject in question. With TI, all I picture is computer code that I don't know how to decipher. Can you give me some more tangible examples of what TI is? Like, how do I know if I'm using it? Cheers. There was another comment about ENFPs I wanted to read at the top here that reminded me of this in the first place. It goes, to imply that ENFPs as a while lack critical thinking skills doesn't seem right, considering ENFPs like Mark Twain, Michio Kaku, and Aldous Huxley exist. It doesn't seem right to say that TI has a monopoly on formal logic and critical thought. The ENFP you're talking about just happens to be a dumbass. Okay. So, this is a big topic. TI is indeed conditional logic. It's the thing that makes computer stuff work. It's if this, then that. If not this, then not that. If this, then this or this. If not that, then the other. Stuff like that. But in some sense, even though that's the simplest explanation and the most accurate, it's not something that resonates with an FI user, as an FI tool function user, I mean. So that's going to be your ESFPs and your ENFPs. And the same reason that FI doesn't make sense to me. Because our tool function is our nature as we express it when we need to, as a default. In other words, in terms of our nature, our dominant function is all-encompassing. It's rare that we aren't using that in some sense. It's rare that we aren't attending via that modality. It's rare that we don't express potentialities as a fundamental ontological core if you're an NE-DOM. So ENFP is my NE-DOM mates. They express potentialities, novelty, improvisation, ideation in the moment as their nature, and how the ENFP and the ENTP express them differently. That nature is they use FI, we use TI. The thing about that, FI fundamentally is the consideration of subjective concerns regarding any given matter to the elimination of objective concerns. It's about how do I feel about it, means I'm not thinking about how does it function as an object independent of me? So if we're talking about, let's say, something like the Battle of Gettysburg. Let's say I'm a TI user, or an FI user, ENFP or ENTP. First of all, I'm going to learn it in the same way with SI. I'm going to remember where I learned it, how I learned it, what its contents were. For a TI user, though, the logic of it, and for the TE user, the FI user, the logic of it are very different things. The logic of it for the FI user is, what do I need to know this for? What am I going to use this information for? Usually it's to pass a test or something like that, if you're in school, you know? If the ENFP is particularly into history, perhaps they'll use their knowledge about the Battle of Gettysburg to link into some other pieces of information and plans that they're going to put these things together in a certain way to make a thesis for a doctorate, for example. The TI user is going to perhaps link into other things they know as well, but looking for consistencies. And the key difference is, how does the FITE user do that SI remembering thing and FI adjudicating thing, the adjudicating thing, the TI does and FI does the same. They both adjudicate internally what the meaning of something is. How does that differ for the FI user and the TE user? Well, the FI user, for example, let's say they were engaged with the Battle of Gettysburg with their feelings. They remember with their SI how they feel about certain elements of the story, perhaps how they feel good about the North winning or bad about the North winning, about how they feel sad for all the people who died, about how they feel impressed with Abraham Lincoln because of his remarkably clean bit of oration that he wrote, or whatever they feel about the different things, and they'll organize it like that. A TI user will consider elements of it that are effective as objects, not related to them and their feelings about it, but related to other things they already know as defined objects, and or related to some sort of resolution, that is to say, a matter in dispute. So, but that doesn't really answer Jared's question. Jared wanted to know, how does he know if he's using TI and what it is, and I also want to get to this linking back to this idea of intelligence and different types being smarter than other types, quote unquote, and things like that. So here's the thing, Jared. I know when I'm experiencing FI. I cry or something, or I laugh, and I have FI a lot, but not usual, not as a standard operating thing. You know, I have it frequently, but it happens to me rather than I make it happen. So I'm assuming TI is the same for you. You'll have bursts of time when you express things in terms of logical comparisons. By logical comparisons, I mean things like, okay, but here's a perfect example of how FI and TI on some level just simply can't get each other. Because if I'm an FI user and someone goes, listen, I really want to go to this party, and I don't want to go to that party. And the reason is because I really like this person at party number 1 and that person at party number 2. Now that's something that's going to make more than that person at party, and I don't like that person at party number 2. That's going to make sense to the TI user just fine. They're going to say, okay, well, that's a perfectly logical reason to do it. But then later on, let's say the TI user wants to go to a restaurant, and he said, and so the TI user goes, well, there's a disagreement here. I want to go to Denny's, and you want to go to International House of Pancakes. Well, listen, we need to go to Denny's because there's this one meal that they have at Denny's that I really like a lot, and there's one meal at IHOP that I really don't like a lot. I dislike it a lot. And so, as a consequence, since we used that modality to adjudicate things earlier, we should use it again now. And therefore, since I feel the same way you did earlier, and that counts as a good enough reason to go prefer one thing or the other, then let's go to Denny's. Or let's say, to make it more of a better analogy, there's a waitress I really don't like at IHOP and a waitress I really do like at Denny's. Now, the introverted feeler at that point may decide that makes sense. That's a reasonable reason to go to one place or the other and go along with you. And the TI person will go, well, that's perfectly good and that's fair. But the thing is, in both instances, they're understanding things for different reasons. So for the introverted feeler, the important thing is that there's somebody there that they don't like, or there's somebody there that they do like and they want to see. And that's their actual valuing of the thing that matters. To the ENTP, what matters in the first instance is that's a good enough reason to want to go to one place or the other. For example, if the person just said, I don't know, I just have a feeling that that party's going to be better, and I have a feeling that party's going to be worse. I don't know. I've been to that first place before and it wasn't really that great, and I've been to the other place before and it was better. I feel like probably it's going to be better in the second place. Well, the ENTP is going to go, well, you're just basing that on your SI experience because you had a bad experience there once before and you had a good experience there once before. But it's a totally different operation now. It may be the same location, but totally different people are involved. Those people moved away and they're new people in both places. It's ridiculous to try to say that we can glean any information from the past. And they go, yeah, but I feel pretty strongly about this and I really have a feeling. Well, the ENFP is going to go like, well, fuck that noise, because you're not justifying it with anything. There's no comparison even involved. You're not comparing actual things. You're not saying, here's something we can anticipate at both places, and I have a feeling about that, and these are what my feelings are. You're just basing your feeling on something that's in the past that we ought not generalize forward from, because that's not logical. All right, so there's somewhere where they might run afoul. On the other hand, there's another way in which they might run afoul. Let's say there is a situation where somebody needs some sort of special treatment because there's a significant emotional issue going on. For example, maybe a loved one just died, and so there's a need to accommodate them. And on some level, an ENTP or an ESTP, until later on in life especially, they aren't going to feel the fact that that person has, that we need to treat them carefully because they've got significant feelings right now that they have to cope with. And that's a big weight and a burden, because it's hard for us to sort of remember or conceptualize feelings when we're not experiencing them. So, you know, an ENTP might do something like I did at Kimberly's grandfather's funeral. I freaked out because I didn't eat soon enough and threw a little tantrum, because I didn't respect the fact that, you know, feelings are huge, and I need to respect them, you know. But the point being, feelings, right? With TI, then the difference is you're not. We might agree with you that that's a good reason, you know, like, okay, those feelings are justified. This is the difference between TI and FI. TI and FI agree about feelings being an adequate justification for things, but TI insists that they actually be an adequate justification for things. So it's not enough that you feel strongly. You have to have a good reason to feel strongly. And if you do have a good reason to feel strongly, in other words, it generalizes out, and most people would feel strongly in a comparable situation, then okay. And we buy that from an FE perspective. That's how we access the personal valuings thing. Now, how do you know when you're using TI? When you're using TI, you're discounting the subjective experience. You're trying to find something that passes the reciprocal burdens test. You're saying, all right, because you used this rule to your advantage, I can use this rule to my advantage in the same context. For example, when Kimberly and I argue, what's often probably at the core of the arguments are introverted feelings, but we don't deal with them directly in the sense that we won't try to defend things that aren't justified logically. So she's countervalued FI, I'm blind FI, and together we don't care a whole hell of a lot about FI, at least in our decision-making processes. Because my tool function means that I am habitually expressing possibilities, intuition, improvisation through the objective understanding of the world, that is to say, the disinterested perspective, the removal of particularism from the equation. Well, let's not think about his particular circumstances mean that we oughtn't apply the rule, the principles, consistently. And even then, though, TI isn't even so much about whether we ought to actually do something in the real world consistently, so much as it is about whether we ought to conclude that we ought to do something in the real world consistently. If we do conclude that, then we probably will be as consistent as possible in the application of it. But it's not about the actual real world application of it. If you go back to the TE aspect of the FI user, the TE aspect says, linking this to my own personal goal in this particular situation, what ought I do to make this particular situation more efficient for me, more effective for me? TI user doesn't care about me. So a good TI user is somebody who admits when they're wrong quickly, because there's no point in clinging to bad ideas except for FE reasons. And ideally, you want to get rid of them. Things that don't make sense, contradictions that you get called out on, well, that's others helping you get smarter. And it's worth... Is that Delilah? Who's that? Oh, hi, Jen.
Hey, I was just coming to get the folding table.
Oh, it's right here. Let me carry it over for you. I'm about done.
Robot Eric.
Are you sure you're gonna... Am I roboting? Are you
Yes.
sure? Okay.
Mhm.
Well,
Hello, handsome.
there is a string in there. Hold on. Oh, okay. Well, I'm about done with this video anyway. Did I put the string inside? I fucked it up, huh?
No, tables are complicated, and the only reason I'm good at them is because it's taken me years to figure them out.
Here, let me help you. Let me help you. Here.
I just need it to be
Damn, Eric looks way more healthy now than he did. Damn. That woman is doing some wonders on him.
I didn't look, I swear. I diligently didn't look, okay? I diligently looked away, dude.
Det där är så kleint. Det känns på. Det är så...
Akkurat som
I'm totally serious, though. I did.
Hey,
I am. I totally didn't look at him. Okay.
hey, Eric, you look fucking good now. Damn.
Thanks.
You look healthy. You look healthy.
I am healthy. It's all that celery. I have all celery diet now. Nothing but celery all the time. I was sick earlier. Now I'm feeling fine.
But are you making something?
Yeah, I made a video about ENFPs, TI and FE. I mean, TI and FI and what the difference of them is. Answering some comments. But now I might have fucked that video up. I gotta check the audio on it. And anyway, I'm gonna stop it now. That's my. I might have to remake it.